There's not typically no shy.
Good morning, Chair and board members.
Good morning.
We have two members of the public wishing to provide public comments today. I would like to first call up Miss Nellie McKay from Patterson Houses, who will be commenting on item number 1. Miss McKay?
You okay? Okay. Got it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody knows me.
Good morning.
I was in the hospital for 2 months,
Oh,
and I've been out 2 weeks, but I just want to come down and thank Mrs. Oratoria for the wraps they had started. They laid some semen, and I have a gift for her.
Oh.
And I hope I can see you afterwards. And also I'm here about steam, heat, and hot water. I have, I guess, housing towel in my mouth, and I have hot water and steam. But I met a lady yesterday, a senior citizen. Her water is warm. They have no hot water, warm water. At 2325 and 414 was the 2 billion, no water. I was sick. They called me in the hospital. We don't have heat and hot water. What can I do? Because I voted for the politician. I worked for them and they worked for me. And I said, call their office. Senator Serrano have part of the Bronx. Planning Board 1 is there, but everyone calls me. So I decided, you know, we have to work together with this. And NYCHA really supposed to have heat from October the 1st until May the 31st, because I went to a meeting 14th in Pitt. It was a lawyer there, and he gave the cards out. And I'm asking. And also, we need someone from down here and Water Street to come to the Tenants Association, because we have a person, I can say it here and say it there. She's not really working for us. We are tenants, senior citizens, pay our rent. We have to clean up our house before we try to clean up someone else's house. Bringing in people can't help us. We need someone to come to the meeting. So I was trying to find out what's the meeting this month. I called the secretary. She didn't know. I called Mr. Mod. He didn't. Nobody knows about the meeting. It's supposed to be the last Tuesday and this month. And I hope that I can get someone to find out, call the house, because the manager's not in. I've been calling her since I've been out of the hospital, and I've been out 2 weeks, to come up there and work with us and see that the boiler gets fixed, because they've been patching that boiler up. I've been there 50 years, and they've been patching this boiler up. And the other day, when I came from the hospital, cold days, I had on 2-row socks. I shouldn't have to do that, because the whole time that I was in the hospital, my rent was being paid. And I think we should have heat and hot water. And I'm asking someone to find out, maybe y'all can find out when the meeting, come to the meeting once a month. And the whole thing in a nutshell, this woman wasn't trained how to run a community. See, you have to be trained. You don't need a master's degree, but you know how to run a community and work for the tenants that live in Patterson. And that's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Thank you, Mr. McKay.
Ms. McKay.
Yes. Our next speaker, Madam Chair, will be Mr. McNamara, commenting on item, I believe is number 8.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First of all, Secretary Worthless, thank you for the improved accessibility. I appreciate it. I've always had an interest in safety and of employees with housing. For the last 5 years, I've appealed to NYCHA without success regarding my situation. Since 2014, the sole response from NYCHA has been the good morning extended to me at these meetings. There's been virtually no other communication. There seems to be systemic communication blackout in place, likely directed by NYCHA legal counsel. Both the counsels for the NYPD and NYCHA were either too lethargic or too inept to examine the Mayoral Directive 7814 and the collective bargaining agreement that both support my position, and were readily available in the New York City Hall archives and the Office of Labor Relations. All of my correspondence is unanswered that goes to the corporate secretary regarding a request for action per the bylaws, or a confirmation that communications to the board have been extended. My feeling is that a critical role of a corporate secretary is communication with stakeholders, and I am a stakeholder. NYCHA seems to have adopted a policy of denial. I've disproved the sole argument of the authority, yet the apathy continues. You may wonder what drives me, to continue this effort. It's two items. It's dual. One is my tenuous health situation. The other is my 12-year-old daughter. I could succumb from my line of duty injuries at any time. I have a heart issue and a potpourri of direct causal issues to my paraplegic condition, which were incurred in the line of duty. My police department has been dissolved since the merger in 1995, and I frankly can't trust the city of New York or NYCHA to campaign on my behalf if something happens. Members of the NYPD and the Transit PD who succumb to injuries years and even decades after their initial injury, are treated in an appropriate manner. And I need to ensure that, my daughter is treated the same way as other sons and daughters of folks injured in the line of duty. I specifically asked Chair Olatoye to have NYCHA memorialize a commitment to pursue normal line of duty injury line of duty death benefits on my behalf in the future if it were to be appropriate. I am my sole advocate. I've got no one else representing me. After the July board meeting, I sent the chair an extended list of items justifying my position and what my objectives were. I continue to ask for a meeting with NYCHA that I've been denied, and perhaps even a modicum of empathy. I asked the 3 resident board members to speak up. You have more influence than you may think you have. We share a common experience. I was raised in housing, and I think you understand better than most the challenges of policing housing. My first tour of duty, one day out of the academy, was in the Red Hook houses. My last tour of duty, where I almost died, was in the St. Nicholas houses. So I think we have a shared experience. In closing, let me just paraphrase: nothing is ever achieved without much enduring, and I do plan on enduring. I thank you for your time. Hope to hear from you, and enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Same
Ms.
to you and your family.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, that concludes our public comments portion, and we may proceed with the regular calendar. I would like to start by having someone make a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on October 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We may proceed with the chair's report.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Off the mic, can you hear me? Yeah? So we have so first of all, I'm gonna wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, good luck. The roads are already a mess. If you're here locally, I wish you everyone a peaceful and happy Thanksgiving. Want to provide this group just a quick set of updates that have occurred over the course of the last month. None of this, our work around implementation of Next Generation NYCHA continues. we, in some ways, are even more resolute on ensuring the long-term financial health of the organization so that we can be a better landlord, we can reinvest in our properties and service our residents. A couple of things that of note over the course of the last month, as we committed to in Next Generation NYCHA, we continue to roll out future 100% affordable development sites. We just announced 4 sites. We'll begin conversations with our residents there, or actually continue because we've done some of this engagement work already. Harborview Terrace, which is in Manhattan, Morrisania Air Rights, which is in the Bronx, Sumner Houses, which is in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and Twin Parks, which is in the Fordham Heights section of the Bronx. All 100% affordable, as we have committed to as part of this process. Going and working with the residents to identify a vision plan for their communities, and ultimately what types of development they'd like to see within the rubric of 100% affordable. I think the one thing that is notable is that we are building 100% affordable housing in Midtown Manhattan. That is something that we have the ability to do given our assets. So again, a commitment to by the administration and us to continue to provide affordable housing and address the continued crisis of affordable housing in New York City, and not just in outside of Manhattan, but also within Manhattan. I'm gonna actually let the GM talk a little bit more about the small area fair market issue. We talked a bit about this last month. This, I think, is actually a really great example of the power of the leadership of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the potential impact that a person and a group of people can have on the housing authority. We were very concerned about a potential rule change that would have had an impact on 55,000 households here in New York City. And we were very pleased to learn that we will be exempted from that proposed change, essentially ensuring that people will continue to have a rental a housing benefit that allows them to stay in their homes, particularly given the overall housing crisis in New York. So a huge win for New York, a huge win for those families, and I think representative of a ton of work by this agency, our sister agency at HPD, and our elected colleagues who really put the pressure on our HUD leadership to really understand what such a rule change would mean in a place like New York, where we have such low vacancies and high rent. So the GM will talk more about it in his report, but really something for us to pause and acknowledge. Something else that, restored my faith in humanity a bit, which is last Saturday, 150 or so young people convened at John Jay College. These were young people from across the city, ages 14 to 21, who participated in a day-long workshop around how to be involved, how to lead, how to support their communities. 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning for anyone is tough, but for young people, even more so perhaps. And they were fired up, and they were, signing up and coming up with ideas of how they could support a safe, clean, and connected community in their respective developments. And this is directly tied to one of our strategies as part of Next Generation NYCHA to create youth councils throughout the authority, and we've done it. So we have approximately 15 councils and counting throughout the city. So just a really, I think, bright spot in some of the tremendous work around our fourth strategy of our fourth goal around engage with our residents. So some of you may have read we had an election earlier this month, and regardless of where people sort of fell in sort of the sort of political spectrum, public housing in NYCHA in particular stands to really, we're at a really critical moment in our history in our country, but certainly for public housing. The GM and I and several members of the executive team were in Washington last week with other housing authorities from around the country, listening, sort of seeking trying to sort of piece a pathway forward to understand what this change in administration could mean for public housing, what it could mean for New York in particular. And the reality is there's so much unknown. We still don't know who, unless something's changed in the last 10 minutes. I don't think we have a HUD secretary yet. And, there really hadn't been a lot of discussion about housing and particularly public housing throughout the campaign. But I thought we'd sort of share with you some of the concerns that we have. And what we are going to be focused on in as soon as leadership is identified, and what really will be our focus moving into 2017. So some of the concerns are, there's always been talk about the elimination of HUD and blow up the agency. Having worked now in a bureaucracy, I know something that's actually kind of tough to do that kind of thing. So, but there's a lot between sort of dismantling an agency and its current state. Clearly a significant financial impact on the authority. We all are already getting 82 cents on the dollar. To see a 10, 20, 30, 40% cut in our operating budget will have dire consequences, no questions asked. And that is the type of analyses that we're working through to understand what we should be planning for. For those of you who were here during sequestration, I think we understood and remember what that meant for families in terms of our Section 8 families, our families who receive Section 8, and what it meant for the authority. We are looking at all potential scenarios. There's also concerns around the leased housing or Section 8 program, what that would mean, not only for the 88,000 families who currently have Section 8 vouchers, but for our continued role in helping to address the homeless crisis in New York City. Last year, work of a lot of people in this room, we housed about close to 3,000 families, whether in the public housing program and in the Section 8 program. And, that truly will become, almost impossible if our resources are significantly curtailed. New York has always said we are different from the rest of the country. We have not knocked down public housing. There's actually a whole conversation in HUD already around the demolition disposition program. This could be something that, this is sort of an area where the secretary can make regulatory changes and could require public housing authorities to demolish buildings because of their significant capital needs. So again, something that we are trying to address through Next Generation NYCHA and all of our capital investments, but that's a potential a risk. Conversations around privatization have always been in public housing. I think that what we've tried to do is try to remove the sort of boogeyman, frankly, and what that means, which for us is really about ensuring that public housing residents' rights remain and we preserve public housing. But who knows what that could mean in the context of a new administration. And then there's always been a constant push around work requirements, time limits, income cutoffs, things that right now are really left to the discretion of public housing authorities in their leadership. That is something that a HUD leadership agency shift could actually make mandatory. So these are the types of things that we're thinking about. These are the types of things that we're having conversations with our colleagues from across the country, and certainly will report back to you all as we get more information. From all of the discussions that we had last week, I think there are a couple of sort of themes that we heard. One is, regardless of who's named as secretary, it's really going to be important that we continue to enjoy good relationships with the career HUD officials, which we do enjoy. and very quickly get to know the new leadership that not only the secretary, but the people that will be around him or her. So that it will be a real priority for the GM and I, and spending a fair amount of time in Washington. We heard a lot of conversation around private sector discipline in public housing. And frankly, it's something that we've brought to and built on here, again, with the notion of protecting public housing residents and their rights as sort of as the beacon. But what that means going forward, we'll see. A lot of conversation around deregulation. That was the word of the day. Practically speaking, there are some HUD regulations that would allow us to be more effective in whether it's in our development activity, whether it's in the administration of our public housing program. But what that means on a day-to-day basis remains to be seen. And then there was also a lot of discussion around local control. Again, not quite sure what that's going to mean. Clearly, it could have benefits for smaller housing authorities, but for NYCHA and the next sort of 3 large housing authorities, that could, who knows what that will spell. So these are sort of some of the big themes that I took away, leadership took away from our conversations with some of the congressional leaders. We'll report back as we learn more, but as I said to the team the day after the election, it's in some ways, our mission is very clarifying, right? The lights still have to be on, the trash still needs to be picked up, people still need to, have heat. And so we remain resolute in our focus to deliver on that mission. And we're certainly going to need all of the support of you and other partners to make sure that we can continue to meet that. So that is my report. Happy to answer any questions. Okay, I've stunned you into silence. All right, GM.
It was a lot.
I'm still processing things.
Oh, good morning, board.
Good
I'm
morning.
going to report on some of the activities in the month of October, but I do want to start where the chairwoman talked of the remarkable success we had around responding to HUD's proposal for a small area fair market rate. That had an impact. It was well intended, looking at the idea of using zip codes as a way of adjusting the voucher payments to allow for mobility. Well intended. However, when we did our internal analysis, we found out there were approximately 55,000 New Yorkers within our program that would have been negatively impacted by having this payment standard change. Again, through the leadership of the chair and through diligent work with the media, with the academic community, with the advocate community, and particularly with the elected community, with particularly Schumer and Velazquez, we were able to successfully lead the sort of national response charge to have an exemption for areas that have less than 4% vacancy rate to be exempt from this particular proposal. Quiet as it's kept, it's a phenomenal success. I think it does bode well because of New York City's leadership role, because our work benefited Boston, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and that I think it's one of these situations that I think we need to mark our successes when they happen. This was a very big one, and I think, again, I'd like to recognize the power of our chair in leading the fight. And Kathy Pennington of the work, but we'll get to Kathy in just a moment. I don't want to throw too many roses at the same time. With that, I do want to give you some updates in terms of our indicator performance around the month of October, around work orders, vacancies, and customer satisfaction. For the work order overview, for the month of October, there were 145,176 outstanding work orders. This is a increase from the month before. However, and recognizing that in the month of October, we did 205,000 plus work orders during that month. However, we actually produced more work orders than we actually were able to create. We identified more work than we were able to do. That work that we've identified were work that was associated with our pre-public housing assessment system preparations for our reviews by HUD, as well as the beginning of heat and hot water season. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. On emergency work orders, again, there was in October, the average time to resolve emergencies was 14.5 hours. It's lower than last year's, and it's still within our target. But it does show the increased trend that happens with the beginning of heat and hot water season. One of the things I hope to be true, but we'll confirm it as the season progresses, is the fact that we were dramatically lower than we were a year ago, that the summer overhaul that we did this summer is starting to have an impact on our responses. On the maintenance work orders, there was a slight increase. October, the service level is 5.9 days. It was increased from the previous month by 5.3 days. It's a 24% reduction, though, from a year ago. And in terms of just numbers, in the recognition of what this pre-FAS or pre-public housing assessment system has in terms of identifying additional work, that has an impact on our overall number as well as our ability to get this stuff quickly. When we began our work in our pre-FAS in August, we had about 310 work orders identified. In September, there was 1,300 identified. In October, this period, there were 3,324 identified. And already through the month of November, there's been over 2,000 additional work orders. So we're actually identifying more work that needs to be done, but it's having an impact on service delivery time. On skilled trades, remarkably, there is a downward trend that's starting to happen here. It's one in which the service level in October was 62.7 days, a decrease from compared to September, but again, much higher than it was a year ago in October. One of the things that attributes this is that we've now had a focus, particularly around our vendor work around paint and tile. We've identified some funding specifically tied to getting vendors to do old paint work and old tile work that's having an impact on these numbers. And something that it's near and dear to the chair's heart, there was actually an increase in wrench time productivity on plumbers that's having impact on these numbers. So again, there's still much more work to be done, but I think the business process review exercise that we've begun to do here is beginning to develop some kind of progress in deliverables. Apartment turnaround time year to date is from October 2016 was 49.3 days. It was a reduction of 8% compared to a year ago. However, the target is still 30 days, and we're well off the target still. I know this question was asked at the last board meeting. It's about 1,100 outstanding vacancies at this very second that we're dealing with. And this number reflects the vacancies that are the total number from the time they become vacant to the time another resident is in place. So it's not just the work that has to be done, it's the marketing and it's the property management aspect of it that incorporates this timetable. Customer satisfaction, we made 3,356 calls last month, 3,138 residents responded, 2,529 felt that our work was satisfactory or very satisfactory. Again, the deltas remain sort of constant, still trying to break that issue or break that kind of code about what's going on with that 20%. One of the things we're finding is that with our quality assurance work that we're doing, that we're finding that over 90% of the work that we're doing, 9 out of 10 work orders that we complete, when we have an independent QA team come and look at the work, they find the work's done pretty well. We believe that one of the things that's driving this is that we are still not planning the work and developing the customer satisfaction such that they see closure and completion of the entire job. We'll go down this road too much, but for example, we can actually do a single activity well, but many of these jobs require several different activities for closure. And I think what residents are saying, hey, thanks for doing this piece, but when's my overall work going to be done? And I think the response is that we still get the negative grade until we get that part of it together.
Two things that I want to go, and I'm not going in order. I'm going to hit something else first.
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about that we're addressing the work tickets, and then we've created other tickets. Now, I would assume that in a positive manner, that the work tickets that that were created while you were trying to get rid of the ones that were existing are child tickets, which means we're addressing the issues. And now the work tickets that are being created is to finish the other tickets. And if you look at it in that sense, I think that's a positive move because although it's creating more tickets, it's tickets that will finalize the work that we began.
Remember, that's a big piece of what's happening right now. We're actually looking at creating more tickets to recognize the entire job. It's actually just to your point, which is creating more overall tickets. At least it gives the opportunity for us to schedule and to look at a job holistically. However, just besides that, though, besides the particular job and the child tickets that are associated with it, there's just more work that happens. I think I shared with the board before, this tour of duty versus my last, the deterioration of our stock based on deferred capital need is exponentially greater than it was even 5 years ago. And I think that we're actually we have to do more work. We were identifying more work because there's more work that needs to be done.
That's the challenge.
Yeah, that is the challenge.
Okay. And the second thing was, and this is just more, I'm looking for your valued opinion. The win situation that we got, that they didn't put something into effect that would harm these 55,000 homes. In your estimate, what do you think was the catalyst that made the government finally see it our way?
I think Kathy Pennington and the power of our
She's very convincing. Yeah.
which actually is a good lead into the second part of my presentation. For the first time since 2004, the New York City Housing Authority has earned the designation of high performer in the Section 8 Management Assessment Program. A distinction that a very small number of housing authorities throughout the country get because it's a very difficult standard to meet. Just a quick overview of the program. We're the largest in the country. We provide housing to over 87,000 households. That's 209,000 folks. So when we talk about the over 400,000 that the conventional public housing serves, this is another 200,000 that represents our families and our residents that NYCHA supports. Near $1 billion to private owners. We completed 55,000 plus housing quality standard inspections during the period, approved 35,000 increases to rent, and recertified almost 80,000 households. And again, received this high performer status. This particular status is one that looks at things like the proper selection of applicants, the accurate verification of family income, performing quality control inspections, timely annual inspections. There's 14 different specific indicators that need to be met, and that we had received an overall score of 93%, of which 90 is a high performance designation. The first time again since 2004, it's the highest designation that HUD can have. But without further ado, I'd like to recognize and present to the board Kathy Pennington and her senior team. Madam Chair and Board, is the General Manager report.
No other questions? We'll move on to
Item number 1.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm presenting 3 votes for your consideration. The first is a recommendation to reject all bids. There was a discrepancy between the hard copy bid and the electronic version of the documents, obviously not a level playing ground. At the time we bid this, we did not have a job contract in place for this kind of work. We do now, so we are going to go to the job contract and not rebid it. Okay. Item number 2 is the recommendation to award a contract in the value of $1,961,000 to Triple H Construction for replacement of interior stairs at Robinson Houses. We got a very good bid on this. This contractor doesn't need to sub out, so his overhead was much less than we anticipated, which is good news for all of us. They're proposing 2 Section 3 hires. It's a contract for a year. Third recommendation is to approve a change order related to the work for exterior restoration and roof work, so brickwork, parapet, and roof at LaGuardia houses. The contractor is Structural Preservation Systems, LLC. The net amount of this change order, that is what we've approved against what credits we have coming for the contract, is $674,706.31. This is the third change order. The first was for asbestos that had not been inspected. The plans, the as-bills did not show where we had as much asbestos as they discovered. The second change order was for new local law 11 brickwork. We were already there. We saw new cycle repair work. We took care of it. And then this is in relationship to, honestly, very accurately, we asked them to mobilize quickly, get going. This is under our Bond B program. We want to make sure we hit deadlines and we put pressure on them. So we believe this is a fair consideration.
I just had a question. Does the 674 come on a contingency or is that, okay.
We have funds set aside for this.
Great.
Any questions? Thank you. Have a happy holiday.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Oh, that's right.
Good morning. Matt Charney, Deputy Director, Real Estate Development Department. I'm requesting authorization to enter into a ground lease for the term of 99 years for an approximately 11,000 square foot site at Fulton Houses on 18th Street in Manhattan for the purpose of housing development. The project will be comprised of 159 family housing units and 1 superintendent unit with a total of approximately 130,000 square feet of residential zoning floor area. We presented the resolution to this board in September for the authorization to submit the section application, 18 application, and are now submitting this resolution to dispose of the site or to enter into long-term ground lease for the site. The only significant difference from what we proposed and brought to the board in September to now is that we've been able to negotiate the transaction to be a long-term ground lease rather than a sale to align with the current standards of next generation NYCHA.
I just have one quick. With regards to the parking spaces, I know that that's a very touchy subject, but I just want to make sure that as we move along, if they were kind enough to let the board know as to these extra ones that we've applied to the city for, how that, as it progresses, how we move along.
Sure.
Could that be possible?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I respond to Senior Vice President of Operations for Support Services. I'll be presenting items 5 through 8. 5, 6, and 7 are very similar. I'll present those in one. Authorization is requested to award 3 requirement contracts to Richards Plumbing and Heating Company Incorporated for the inspection and testing of fire standpipe and sprinkler systems. These are 2-year requirement contracts with a 1-year renewal option. The lowest bidder, V. Burrell, was deemed non-responsive because it did not submit required bid bonds. These contracts are a cyclical requirement fire safety contracts to comply with fire department and New York City administrative regulations. They will monthly visually inspect standpipe and sprinkler systems, weekly test our fire pumps, and quarterly conduct a flow test of our sprinkler systems. The standpipe systems are located in the hallways where the firefighters would hook up their hoses. The sprinklers are mostly in our trash compactors, although we have some in our hallways and public hallways and apartments. The fire pumps are located in our taller buildings. They will increase the pressure required for the standpipes and the sprinklers in case they need to, the fire department needs to use them. Any deficiencies identified by these inspections or tests are repaired by a different vendor to avoid any conflict with the inspection. The cost of each contract is as follows. For resolution number 5, it covers Brooklyn East. It's $1,288,493.42. For number 7, Brooklyn South and West, $1,238,233.30. Number 7 will cover the Bronx South. $1,077,886.56. Richards Plumbing will hire one Section 3 hire on each contract in the title of inspector. This firm is qualified to do this work. They've completed almost $8 million in the last 5 years of this type of work. Respectfully request approval of these resolutions.
Just one question. So in a case like this, so I understand these were broken up into 3 different scopes of work, but it just so happens that the same contractor has been selected. Is there any advantage to then bundling it and creating one contract, or will these be 3 separate contracts? How do you approach that?
We broke up for these type of contracts. We broke up the city into 7 areas. The only thing that gives us the ability, first of all, to have more competitive bidding, and also in case one of the contracts defaults, it would be a small area would be affected, and then we could ask legal to allow the other contractor to come in and cover those areas, just because of the priority of this work.
Right.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have one. I noticed on here that the work is being done in Brooklyn, East, and the Bronx. What about Manhattan?
So those other contracts are currently in existence. All of our contracts pretty much expire in March of 2017. Some of these are under the board requirements. If they're under $1 million, I don't bring them to board, but we have coverage all over the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Item number 8, this authorization is requested to approve the ratification of a change order to a requirement contract with AirTech Environmental Corporation for industrial hygiene and employee health and safety services. We need to increase the not to exceed amount by $430,000. This is a 2-year requirement contract. It originally did not require board approval, and it will expire in March of 2017, but we can avail ourselves of an additional 1-year renewal option, which is written into the original contract. This contract covers general industrial hygiene, environmental sampling, testing, and safety services. It has been the vehicle used to set up and monitor and sample, provide safety plans for locations where we needed to install copper silver ionizations. That's at 3 developments. It is due to the detection of Legionnaire bacteria at these locations. Due to the priority of getting the systems in place, we utilize this contract. We work closely with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and this equipment is the best choice to remediate this issue in our residential settings. We have forecasted the cost of additional maintenance and sampling, and are requesting additional funds to cover those services. The new not to exceed amount will be $597,743.40. We have put together a more specific scope for a new contract to cover this work going forward, and we'll be bidding this contract rather than use this more general contract to do this work in the future. We expect the new contract to be awarded in 2017.
So just so I understand, this is to get us to March, and then there'll be a longer contract proposed for other work?
So this will get us probably to the 3rd quarter of next year.
Okay.
Even though it expires in March,
Right.
we will probably renew it if we don't have the new contract in place.
When will the new contract, are we working on?
Yes, we already have the scope out. I believe we have it out to bid right now.
Okay.
I can check and get you exactly back to it, but we should have the other one by early 2017. We should have this specific contract. We will have a need for more general in case some other issues come up. But
why wouldn't you forecast what those needs are now in this contract as opposed to coming back for another change order? So if you believe that there will be more work, they're necessitating more resources.
Right.
You know that now. Why wouldn't we plan accordingly now, as opposed to coming back to us in March?
so this I'm totally on board, but
Okay.
this will cover us for 3 quarters of next year,
Okay.
because we expect to have a specific contract just to cover this work, and we expect that we'll get better prices if the vendor knows exactly what he or she is going to be doing.
Okay.
So I won't have to come back with a new contract unless, it's below $1 million, and I won't have to come back to board. But that other contract will cover us for these services going forward.
So, okay. Someone else to try.
So, I mean, I can try.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same, but so the added work, right, which is more than, it's 2/3, right? Cost. Is there a way to build it in to the Can you expect to have that type of work? And if so, can you include that in the new?
So that's what the new contract is going to cover.
Okay.
So because we're not going to be, if we get the other contract, we won't be utilizing this contract for that work. So the cost will be, I won't have to spend that money for this contract.
Oh,
So this is kind of
This is
to get me
stopgap
to the next contract. And then I'll be using this at a much more reduced rate. I'll have enough funds to cover any additional emergencies and additional work under this one. You
Got it.
Did I explain it? Sorry.
yeah.
Got
Any
it.
other
I got it.
questions, concerns? Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I'm Karen Caldwell. I'm the CFO of NYCHA, and I'm presenting item number 9. Item number 9 requests authorization to enter into an agreement with Avid Exchange to provide web-based utility management information system, UMIS is what we call it, and related services. These services include managing the authority's utility accounts and providing data for the following commodities: electricity, gas, fuel oil, steam, and water. The authority currently has a contract with Energy Solve to provide these services, which expires January 31st, 2017. Energy Solve and Avid Exchange partnered to leverage Energy Solve's utility invoice processing and payment platform to take advantage of Avid Exchange specialized analytics and reporting capabilities. But the new entity will be called Avid Exchange. As part of this agreement, the employees that service us currently under Energy Solve will be used to fulfill the new contract. So we'll be dealing with the same people. Avid Exchange will review, process, and pay all of the authority's utility invoices, as well as audit such invoices for accuracy, maintain an accessible database of utility usage records, and provide the authority with periodic reports on utility usage. In addition, additional services include advanced reporting, benchmarking, data analysis, and energy analysis, as well as consulting on methods of how we could achieve efficiencies and cost savings. The estimated cost of the agreement is $1,888,295.20 over a 5-year period. The cost proposal includes a one-time startup fee of $37,000 plus a fee per utility account of 59,456 accounts per year. The contract term is 5 years, commencing February 1, 2017, and continuing through January 31st, 2022. I request your approval of the aforementioned agreement. Are there any questions?
No.
Hearing none, happy holidays.
Thank you. Same to you.
Good morning. I'm Bob Morano, NYCHA's Chief Information Officer. Item 10 is requesting authorization to enter into an agreement with IMEX Technology Incorporated for Kronos Private Cloud Services. IMEX is a reseller of Kronos technology. NYCHA has been using Kronos as its timekeeping system for over 15 years. This contract will allow NYCHA to move the support and maintenance of this system to the cloud, where Kronos will be our service provider and manage our entire infrastructure. With cloud services, NYCHA will no longer need to house Kronos servers at the 90 Church Street data center, thereby reducing our physical footprint there and power consumption there, storage needs, and ongoing support needs. The Kronos cloud solution will allow our users to access Kronos 24/7 from any location, from any device. This initiative is part of IT's ongoing goal to simplify our application support portfolio by moving to cloud-based systems. Therefore, we are requesting authorization to move forward with this cloud-based solution.
Proceed into the cloud.
Thank you. That's right. Yeah, we'll be seeing more of these. We have a direction that whatever going over the next couple of months, you'll see more of these coming to the board. Item 11 is requesting authorization to enter into an agreement with Dell Marketing LLP for the procurement and implementation and maintenance of 6,500 desktops. These new desktops will replace aging PCs that are more than 8 years old and out of warranty. NYCHA will benefit with the deployment of these desktops by lowering our service desk calls for repairs, increasing staff productivity by reducing downtime, increasing speed to complete transactions, and creating a stable, secure, and manageable desktop environment for next-gen initiatives. Therefore, we're requesting authorization to procure and deploy 6,500 new desktops to the field and to central office.
Bob, what's the timing on this if board approves?
6 months. It's 4 months to do the whole field and then 2 months to do central office. We're going to the field first. We think that it's important that the field realize that they're important and we want to do them first.
Okay.
Because they're obsolete.
And they're old machines. They are old machines.
I've seen them.
Yep. We got, we don't owe them anything.
Boxicon.
8 years, but now they're starting to, show their signs. And with the newer technologies, we want to have the best equipment out there so the field can perform their jobs.
What do we think the useful life of these will be?
I'm thinking at least 5 to 8 years. I'd say 8 years. Hopefully we can get out of these. These are really good machines. It's a 10 gigabytes of memory, 1 terabyte of storage, 23-inch monitors, Windows 10. These are really good machines. So this will last a long time. Warranty is 5 years on these devices.
And is there a service that comes along with it?
Yeah. So anything that goes wrong with these devices, Dell is on the hook for to repair.
And then I noticed the amount came in under the estimate, which was great, but there was only one bid. That I found surprising for such a sizable order. Why do you think that?
Yeah, 23 people could have bid on it, and nobody bid because it was Dell bid. So I guess Dell bid, and they, maybe we had only Dell responded because I guess no one else figured they can beat a Dell bid. I don't know.
And also Dell is one of the best.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time. I've
Yeah,
had Dell.
there are resellers, but they might have enough
Before
charge
the
to
Apples
it, and
came out.
they couldn't meet the price, I guess.
Is that just historically, just going through it, is that typical when we do these? I mean, I don't know, you were here 8 years ago. Is it typical that there's one respondent, or is that
On these
reflective of the
specialized
market?
Dell, if you're buying Dell equipment, yes, that does happen a lot. Like if you're buying Oracle equipment, Oracle might be the
So
only
these are
bidder.
Dell computers.
These
that
are
we asked
Dell
for.
computers, yes.
Oh, why is that?
Because we have Dell, we're used to Dell. They have a great management software that comes with it, and they're a proven leader, and their technology was the best offering that we found. We looked at a bunch of different providers of hardware for desktops, and we chose Dell because we thought it was the best deal for us.
Mm-hmm. And then
other people can, those other companies can bid on the Dell machines and services.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. I know in Q&A that came up that there was a plan to take the old computers and potentially.
Yes, we're working with a company. I want to thank EVP Sadia Sherman for hooking us up with Persholis. Persholis is a company.
Anything to do with me.
No, not Shola. Not
I think it is.
Persholis is the name of the company, and we're working on a deal if they can come and pick up the devices and clean them, and then they will destroy it in an environmental way and get money from that potentially, and they would use that money to field training. They do a NYCHA training for exclusive NYCHA residents, and we're hoping to fund another year of training with Persholis for IT technology training.
So I was glad to hear they're being taken and distributed or broken down responsibly, and
Yes.
that some good things can come out of it.
Yeah, we'll get a certification at it that they would be disposed of in an economical way, environmentally sound way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Madam Chair, 11 items were presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to approve all 11 items? Second. All in favor?
I would just like to say, I move that the members be authorized to meet in an executive session today to discuss the civil investigative demand. So we will be
Second motion.
meeting right after this.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank
Safe
you.
travel.
Thank you and
Thank
your
you.
family.